Hello and welcome everybody to the Wenzelskirche in Naumburg for composing the future part 3. As you can see in the background, we have a small part of the organ built in 1746 by Zacharias Hildebrand, German organ builder, examined and inaugurated by Johann Sebastian Bach, at least influenced by Bach, and most probably more or less conceived by Johann Sebastian Bach. Welcome participants from Rochester, New York, from Siegen, and from Beijing, China, Göteborg, Sweden, and a special welcome to the people to my left and right. Marie Löwe from Wunderbar Together, which supports this wonderful project. And to my right, welcome to Nicolas Berndt, the organist of St. Wenzel's Church. So he is in fact one of the successors of Bach's son-in-law, Alt Nicol, who worked here from 1748 until his death in the 50s. First of all, I have to say thank you to so many people. The Wenzelskirche in Naumburg, especially Nicolas and also Roland Hasler, who had setting all this up. The Eastman School of Music, especially...
Hello. If you're talking to us, we can't hear you because your microphone is muted.
Okay, thank you. Das Mikrofon ist aus, bitte könnt ihr nochmal anstellen. Okay, once again, thank you. Okay, once again, welcome to the Wenzelskirche in Naumburg. Welcome to the organ, a part of which you can see my back, the console. Organ built in 1746 by Zacharias Hildebrand, German organ builder, examined and inaugurated by J.S. Bach, at least influenced by Bach and most probably more or less conceived by him. Welcome participants from Rochester and Siegen. Welcome our friends from all over the world, from Beijing, from Göteborg in Sweden, and a special welcome to Marie Löwe on my left, who is the program director of Wunderbar Together, the program of the German Außenministerium that supports this interesting project. And to my right, Nicolas Berndt, who is the organist in this church, who enabled us to do all this. Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
First of all, I have to say thank you to so many people. Welcome to Nicolas and also to Roland Hasler from the Wenzelskirche, who helped us setting all this up, to the Eastman School of Music, especially David Higgs, Ricardo Zunmuldon, Matthew Barber, and my assistant Jacob Montgomery, who helped coordinating this project that is not really, that's really complex. The University of Siegen, thank you especially to Oliver Lenk, André Sils, and Valerie Ludwig, whom we will see afterwards, who is my assistant on the organ, and the team, Marco and Matthias. Mark and Matthias. And thank you especially to Wunderbar Together, Marie Löwel, who encouraged me not to give up when the preparations came close to getting too complex for me. Thank you so much for encouraging me to setting this up, and hopefully everything will work out. The organization today is like this. We will be switching between streaming and zooming. The first part is streaming. You will have, I will present some music for you, 3 pieces, and this will be a stream. After that, we will switch into the Zoom session and you can ask questions. I think this will be interesting if you have noticed something and you can ask something about the registration or whatever you want to know. As there's always a little time lag between stream and Zoom sessions, we have decided not to switch every 2 minutes because this will be too complicated in terms of timing. But we'll have blocks, like the first one streamed, maybe 20 minutes, then you have your questions. This will be a Zoom part. And after the first Zoom part, we are going to go back to a streaming session when I will be here and present the stops and some specific interesting things about this organ. After that, there will be another Zoom session so you can note all your questions, and then you can also ask whatever you want and we can discuss, and you can even ask me to do something, and as far as I'll be able to do that, I will try to help you with your questions. Okay, that's all about the organization, and now let's jump into our program. Thank you for being here, and maybe you'll enjoy the music from downstairs. Okay. Thank you. Some words about the program of part 1, streaming part 1. I chose 3 pieces in order to show the broad variety of characters and possibilities this organ has in a nutshell. So there are 3 pieces that stand for 3 different periods, 3 different styles, and 3 different characters in music. First of all, J.S. Bach, Prelude B minor, BWV 544. Only the Prelude. It was composed around 1730, 1731, just before the organ here was built. The piece has a very strong Baroque effect. And I chose it because of this effect. It's a very Baroque piece. It will show the full organ, so the whole power of this monstrous instrument. And at the same time, it shows the temperament, because as we spoke about this a week before, this organ has a well-tempered tuning system, and it is Neidhardt 1, für ein Dorf, for a village. So it's very specific, and the keys that go high into the sharps are really sharp. You will notice that. So this is not only a painful piece in terms of melodic and harmonic aspect, but also in terms of tuning, because the dissonances are still sharper because of the tuning system. So this is really painful. It has to be painful. The organ is tuned very well because we are just coming out of a Hildebrand festival here. So the organ is well tuned, but it's the music that makes this so sharp. So a painful and sorrowful character in this music, but it is this music the organ was originally built for. It shows the full organ and the beautiful Baroque sound. And there are also D major passages that you will say, oh my God, I don't want to leave this church anymore. So the second piece is Felix Mendelssohn, Prelude G major, Opus 37, second one. It was composed more than 100 years later in 1837. And it's an early romantic idiom. It's soft and fluid, a serene piece. And Mendel, why did I choose it? It shows that this organ has a potential for future composer generations. And Mendelssohn, you know, Mendelssohn was kind of a pupil of Johann Sebastian Bach because he studied all his music and he learned to play organ on organs that were a bit like this. Not exactly Naumburg, but organs in Berlin and in Potsdam that were comparable to this instrument. So his music feels quite at home at this organ. Or put it like this organ was conceived in a way that inspired composers like Mendelssohn for new music, different from Bach's one. The third piece in our short concertino today is a known piece, Toccata and Lament. I wrote this piece in 2008 for the inauguration of a new organ in Christ Church Cathedral, Rochester, New York, the Casparini organ. This organ is a scientific copy of a Baroque instrument. The original is situated in Vilnius, Lithuania. It's from 1776, only 30 years after this organ. And its idiom is really kind of, you'd say it's like a grandchild of this organ, because the organ builder Adam Gottlob Casparini, who built the Vilnius instrument, he came from Middle Germany. He studied all these instruments here around, like Naumburg. Maybe he even knew this instrument. We don't know that, but it's possible. And we know some organs he knew, and they are very close to this aesthetics, and also they are very close to this place, like the Trost organ in Altenburg. So this piece I wrote for the Casparini organ was conceived for an instrument which is quite comparable to this organ, but it's much smaller. Here at this organ, the music comes to really a big, evolution of what it can be. So I'm very happy that I can play it for you. And of course, my piece, being a contemporary piece, is complex, goes through many different characters, uses different sound and playing techniques, and it has triads as well as clusters. So it's a very rich and broad piece, and you can follow all this, how this organ can do that. And it shows that this organ has a potential that reaches far beyond its own period, and even Mendelssohn's 19th century. It has a potential for contemporary music that still can be explored. And of course, that's up to you to do that after this seminar. In case questions arise during you listen to the music, please note all of them. We'll collect them after the concertino, and I'll try to answer either directly or during the next stream session, depending on what your questions are. Okay, now a bit of music, about a quarter of an hour, 20 minutes. Have fun. sind wir jetzt auf der Zoom-Sitzung. Now, are we at Zoom now? Question is if you can hear me via Zoom. This would be interesting. So I would invite, yeah, okay, that's great. Thank you for your response. So if there are any questions, just the right time to ask them now about the organ music, whatever you are interested in. Okay, there is a question by, I can't see your name. Ali Reza, yeah, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for the thing you have done. Yeah, and I contacted you earlier via email. I'm a student of the Universität Siegen in Mechatronics, Master of Mechatronics, and I've always had a passion for music. And I just found you via link me at the university.
Okay, yeah, I saw your email today. Yes, right.
Yeah. I was just wondering if there's any orchestra that I can join at the University of Siegen, because I've been playing violin for almost 10 years, and maybe if there are also music teachers that some regular students who are not music students can join.
Okay, we can discuss that by email. That's pretty much possible, but we should now concentrate on the organ here.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions about the organ, the pieces? If not, we can just go over and go ahead to the second presentation of the stops. Would that be what you want? Seems so. Good. Okay. Okay, the thumb going up. Great. Thank you. Warte, jetzt gib mal einmal hier mein Zettelchen hier. Okay. Tun wir das mal weg. Wir müssen einmal die Registrierung wegmachen. Just give us a second. We can now go for the second streaming block. Yeah. This was for the technique downstairs. You cannot imagine. This is exciting. We have 3 balconies in this church. The organ is on the 3rd one, and on the first balcony there is a huge technical equipment. Thanks to our 3 guys from the Zimt, it's really like I don't know, maybe like in an aerospace aircraft, or even in a space shuttle or something like that. So they need to know. Now, do you get me on the stream now? I can see you on Zoom. Just give me a feedback. Can you hear the stream? This would be great, because yeah, okay, now hold on, thank you. Okay, then we can go for the second part. Maybe could they see the organ during my first 2 pieces? The full organ, yeah, you could see the beautiful instrument, yeah. Keys and stops, this you see here, are from the original time, 1746. So these keys have been touched by J.S. Bach. These stop knobs were the same he pulled and pushed when he played the organ during the examination. Even the little the register names are original. So everything is really pretty much to the roots. The general features, you can see it. It's a 3 manual organ. Hauptwerk, manual, first manual, the most important manual. In the middle, Oberwerk, which is on top of the organ. Oberwerk means on top, and it's very present. We'll hear it afterwards. And we have the Rückpositiv, which is in the back of the organist. In the back, Rückpositiv means a positive in the back of the organist. This is the Rückpositiv, and of course pedals. 53 stops, arranged here in 6 rows, more than 3,000 pipes. Maybe you can try to show, when I show the register, the stop rows, which is very interesting. It's very precisely organized. Hillebrand was also somebody who knew about the needs of the musician. So you have a stop row for Oberwerk, which is the first one here and here. So you can even push and pull the stops without looking at them, because you know the first row, that's always Oberwerk. Then the middle rows, this is the Manual, Hauptwerk, main manual, and this is the last on the right, and on the left side this is the pedal stops. The two rows underneath are for the Rückpositiv, so they don't belong to the rows. This is the organization of the stops. One of the most characteristic features of this organ is that the divisions, so the manuals, the pipes on the manuals of this organ are differentiated by the scale of the principles. Could you maybe just try to show with me one of? So you see here some of the principal pipes in the prospect in the front of the organ. The diameter of these principles differs from manual to manual, and according to a scheme. This is not by chance. The organ builder made it in a way that every division gets a very specific character, which is really very different from the other divisions. Johann Christoph Altnicol, who was organist here, as I told you, from 1748 until his death in 1759, son-in-law of Johann Sebastian Bach, he described it in this way. He said, the sound is overly beautiful and pleasant and delights the ears, but with that, a tremendous force. Every clavier, every manual, has its specific scaling and quality of sound. As for the manual, which is the Hauptwerk, a thick, full sound, the Rückpositiv, however, sharp, and the Oberwerk, so to say, a cymbal sound. This is, of course, a German quotation I translated into English. Let us listen to that, only with the principles sounding. So the manual, the Hauptwerk, has the largest diameter. So these are large principles, like this. You get it. It's strong, but it's not sharp. But it has many overtones. But it's a quite bodyful and thick sound. Now listen to the principle on the Oberwerk, which is a bit smaller. This is the Oberwerk. Now the Rückpositiv, as Altnicol describes, it's the sharpest, and it's also the sharpest principle. The same character applies to the 4-foot stops, so we can add them and they will still enlarge this effect. Hauptwerk, Oberwerk and Rückpositiv with 8 and 4-foot stops. Okay, let's look where we have the Spitzflöte, Quinterdehn, Oktava, 2 Fuß. No, where is it? Where is it? It's here. This Creator. Oktava. Okay, we have. I had the 4-foot in the. Okay, press Enter and Rückpositiv, Vorfuß. We also have 2-foot stops for all the principles. Then we become larger and sharper, but with the same character for each manual. So this is the body, the backbone of the organ, the principles. There is another particularity about this instrument, and this is what in Bach's time they would have called, and they have called, Gravitate, gravity. The manual is based on a principle 16 foot. So I just give you the principle 16 foot alone, which is like that. Mixture on top of all the principle is based on the 16 foot sound. So if we have the principle foot, 8 foot, 4 foot, 2.5 foot quinta, 2 foot. Mixture, you can't hear me when I'm playing. The mixture adds up, so it adds to the 16 foot, which is a very bodyful sound. You could hear that in the prelude, the B minor prelude. I used it. I used the 16 foot principle as a basis and the mixture, which gives this bodyful, brilliant sound, but with a gravity in the Baroque sense. Of course, the pedal, having a principle 16 foot based manual, is 32 foot based, meaning that we have the contraposaune, which is a reed, as the lowest register. Now it's kind of a helicopter. Of course, you have a 16 foot principle going 8 foot and 4 foot principle. Foot principle are so everything you need to have the same thing in the pedals. The whole organ has 3 16 foot stops on the manuals. That's quite a lot. Let's have a look at them. You have already listened to the 16 foot principle on the Hauptwerk. Bodyful sound. You have another 16 foot on the Hauptwerk, which is a quintadene. You have this fifth on top sounding very well. Here, the many overtones, fifth and so on, makes this register a bit complicated if you write chords for it, like a triad, because the overtone mix up. But it's very good for melodies, for making them very precise, because you have the fifth on top, so you can follow it very much. On the Oberwerk we have a Bordoon 16 foot. Oops, there's something else. Oh yes, of course. Much softer, also with the fifth, but not that dominant. On the whole organ we have 10 8-foot stops, foundations, together about 1/4 of the whole organ. All of these stops differ remarkably in color. They are all voiced to speak, so that you get a clear articulation if you want, and as they differ only moderately in dynamics, they actually can be freely melted and blended and mixed. In addition, there are several 4-foot foundation stops of the same family, so you can combine nearly anything you want. Let's have a look at some of the possibilities. You already know the 8-foot principle on the Hauptwerk. Quintadene. 8 foot. But we have a Geduct 8 foot too. It's soft, but it's present. And we have a flute, Spitzflute. Now you can combine this flute with a gedacht, of course. Gives a bit more of a body. If you add the 8-foot principle, it gets a full 8-foot sound. Of course, they give different colors, but they melt. And the same thing on the other manuals. We have a Hohlflöte, which is a very beautiful flute on the Oberwerk. You could have a good impression of this Hohlflöte in my piece during the first soft passage where I added Tremulent, a Schwebung. Very precise in the church, but of course it's soft. We have the principle on the Oberwerk, of course. To the Hohlflöte it gives a bit more of a body, and it softens the principle a bit. We have a special thing in the organ. We talked about that last week a bit. This is the principal unda maris, which means that we have a principle giving small beatings, slight beatings with the main principle. So this is the principle. Principal unda maris. We'll get back to that afterwards. So we have also this Schwebung, the celeste stops. Now let's go through the families. We have flutes, Oberwerk Hohlflöte, Flöte on the Hauptwerk, also we will count the Bordoon as a special kind of flute, also for the stopped registers, and we have a Hohlflöte. Flöte on the Rückpositiv. So flutes on every register. We have the stopped gedacht on the Hauptwerk. Have the quintadena, 16 foot, as you already know, and on the Rückpositiv, so a stopped fifth. Stop that gives a very precise fifth on top as an overtone. This is the gamba, of course. The quinta den on the Rückpositiv. We have strings, string stopped. The most important is the viola di gamba on the Rückpositiv, which you already heard as string stops. For some of these stops, for all of these stops, we have 4-foot stops. So we have 4-foot flutes on the Oberwerk, Hauptwerk, Rückpositiv, and also a 4-foot string for the viola da gamba on the Rückpositiv. A very small principle in some way. So you have this warm and colorful sound. I used it when playing the Mendelssohn. We had 8-foot stops and 4-foot stops on all three manuals, and I blended them. I had the Rückpositiv coupled to the Hauptwerk, and so if I wanted to have a more orchestral sound, I played on the Hauptwerk. So I had the Hauptwerk and the Rückpositiv on the same menu with an 8-foot and 4-foot mixture, a mélange, a mixture of 8-foot and 4-foot flutes, and I had the Rückpositiv individually and the Brustwerk, which the Oberwerk with 8-foot and 4-foot, which was very pretty much softer for the very beginning and for the end. This organ integrates different styles, Baroque styles. The most important are North German and Italian influences. You can see the North German influence by the huge pedal division. You have pedal stops on both sides. It's really quite a lot, 12 stops. They include 4 powerful reeds, which is extraordinary. Just let's listen to them. Powerful reeds on the pedal. Starting with the 32-foot contraposaune. Powerful, but it's not dominant or crying. It's more, it gives gravity. Then we have a 16-foot posaune. Both in the Bach prelude, 16-foot posaune. But we also have an 8-foot stop, 8-foot trompete, and of course you can use it numerous passages for example. Trumpet, and we even have a 4-foot reed. Course refers to the North German organ, and this is one of the features where we can see that there must be an influence of J.S. Bach in this organ. Hildebrand has never been to North Germany, and there are not so many influences of North German organs in the Thuringian country here. So it must have been J.S. Bach who advised him to build such a big pedal section in the North German style. You know that Bach traveled several times to North Germany, and he knew the North German organs very well. So this is pretty much clear that there's a Bach influence in the pedal, at least that. 4 powerful reeds, and as you already heard, there is the complete principal section from 16-foot, 8-foot, 4-foot, 2-foot, and the mixture, 5 stops for the principal section and with a powerful mixture. And also from the North German organ we have the Rook positive, which is also this influence. You have Rook positives on all the North German organs. It's not so common here in the Thuringian East German tradition. We have them sometimes, but it's not really usual. This is a North German influence. We even have Italian features, the Undamaris here. This is the second large influence. Undamaris, Principal Undamaris on the Oberberg. This was the beginning of a piece by Frescobaldi. This is really Italian. And there are other specifications like the Oberberg section, which is kind of conceived like a synthesizer. You have in the principal section, we have the 8-foot, 2/3, which means we have the first, the basses, there were the tonal basses, then we have the 4-foot, which is the octave on this tonal basis, then we have the 5th on top, so 3rd overtone. Then we have a 2-foot, which is the double octave. Then we have a 1.5 foot, which is the 5th on top of the 2-foot. So we have the next, which is the 6th overtone. And on top we have a 1 foot, a sifflute, once again an octave. And then we have the sharp, which is a very tiny cymbal-like mixture, to speak with Alt Nicole. You get an idea that there's also a slight Italian influence, and so this is integrated into this organ. We don't have so many reeds on the manuals. only 4. However, they are very effective. I'll show you first of all the soft one, which is the Vox Humana on the Oberwerk. Vox Humana is of course a small reed, as you know, and you can in Baroque music for Cantus Firmus, also with the Tremulent. You have an 8-foot stop, flue pipe foundation going with it. This is soft reed, but we have, of course, we have also the powerful reeds, Hauptwerk, Trompete. And a very interesting 16-foot reed on both the Hauptwerk and the Rückpositiv, Hauptwerk Bombarde. Used it in my Bach prelude to go with the principles. On the Rückpositiv we have a 16-foot reed, a fagot, which was conceived for the accompaniment of basso continuo stuff, and you can use it very easily for bass line. I don't know, maybe just try. You get an idea. This is of course for Baroque stuff, but on the other hand, it's also an independent stop that you can use because of wonderful color, because it mixes very well. Now with the principal, or even with the principal 4-foot, gives like a 16-foot basis that you, after a while, you don't get that it's a reed, but it's a 16-foot there because it's so soft. So these are the 4 manual reeds, not so many, but very effective. Of course, we have the pedal reeds, and you remember that we also have 4 pedal reeds. Mutations and mixtures, I already talked about that. The mixture on the Hauptwerk is a 16-foot based mixture, so you don't really like to combine it with the 8-foot. You have the 16-foot, and if you have the whole range, 16-foot, 8-foot, 2.5, 2-foot, and then the mixture, it gives a good sound. Folk music, if you leave out the 16-foot as a bass, it's a bit per range. You get the idea that there's something missing. Of course, it's a 16-foot missing. For the old music, for Baroque music, you wouldn't do that. Of course, for contemporary stuff, this can be very interesting, even have the mixture alone. An idea, there is some power behind this stop, and if you combine it with maybe, I don't know, 4-foot gap registration, the mixture relating to a sound that's not there, so you have this like a gap, but a very colorful sound. We have some fifths, the fifth on the Hauptwerk, which is this one, which is a principal fifth, that's a very effective one. I didn't play it with an 8-foot, but you get an idea. This is a principal sound. And we have an Azad fifth, so a larger one on the Rückpositiv. You want to combine it with an 8-foot. It's good for melodies, like a Cantus Firmus for Baroque stuff, of course. We even have a third on the Oberwerk. And just combine it with only with the Hohlflöte, so that you get a color, an idea of the color, so that we have the third on the Oberwerk. This is the third alone. We have another third integrated in a combination of fifth and third in a so-called Sesquialter on the Hauptwerk. This is like that. It's much more powerful. Now the third, this one is conceived in a way that it adds well to the principles, so you can even add it to a principal choir with mixture, and you get a mixture sound that integrates a third into the mixture. Very common in German Baroque music, and so you can do that with the Sesquialter too, not only for solo stuff. We have some mixtures and chaff and the cornet, which are usual stops that combine different fifths and octaves usually. So you get an idea that this is a versatile, very large, colorful instrument with many different possibilities of combining stops together. Before we go to some further examples, I could give you some examples. We can discuss that later, maybe after a discussion session. I would like to show you something about the temperament. We talked about that, Neidhardt 1 für ein Dorf. This temperament makes that the normal keys like C major are very beautiful and do not have so many interferences. But the farther you get, it gets sharper and sharper. Just follow that. If I start in C major, for those who have perfect pitch, just keep in mind it's choir tone, so it's half a tone higher than usual organs. This is C major, nearly no beatings, nearly perfect fifth and, no, it's not a perfect, but very close to fifth and third. G major, D major. No, it begins to vibrate. A major, E major. You get it? The fifth is a bit uneven. Now, B major. You remember the last chord of the B minor prelude. It's a major chord, like that. And you have the idea, oh, I don't want to listen to this D sharp too long. Bach was reminiscent of that because he only wrote a short note, not the whole measure as usually in such preludes. There are many rests at the end of the bar because of this D sharp that could be awkward in some organs like this one. By the way, for those of you who are in Rochester, Christ Church has the same temperament, but there's a slight alteration. So it's Neidhardt 1, but with a slight alteration in pitch. Is there a problem with Zoom? No, there we are. Okay. Now we were in B major. Now F sharp major. And you get it. It's getting more and more squeezed. C sharp major or D flat major, whatever. A flat major, also very specific character. And we have this E flat major. E flat major in Neidhardt 1 is a bit sharp. That's it's for this reason that we made some alterations in the tuning system in Christ Church with this the E flat major. B flat major is okay. F major, wonderful, and C major back. So you get an idea that the farther we get into the sharps and the B flats, we have this tuning implications that give sharp sounds. you can use that when composing, of course. Everything okay with the streaming? Only a question for my technique.
In Zoom.
There's a problem in Zoom.
A question.
A question.
After?
We will do that afterwards with the questions. Yes, of course. Yeah. Just only to have some additional time. Please note them. We don't want to leave out any questions you have, of course. Some ideas about specific playing techniques on the organ before we go to the next questions. Clusters, toccata and lament. You could see that. Could they see toccata and lament? Only a question. Could they see me playing, or was it? Yeah, toccata and lament. So you got an idea. The organ is quite a robust instrument, so you can play glissandi, okay? Make clusters, no problem. The organ, of course, you don't have to use force, but yeah, the organ is easy to play, so no problem. You can play clusters. You can have smooth sound transitions. This is very interesting if you want to have very interesting and very smooth and soft transitions like crescendi and decrescendi. Just let me show how you can do that. Maybe we can add the Oberwerk and yeah, okay. Now, if I have a cluster like this, only 8 foot stops. This is only 8 foot stops, and I play a cluster, and then I push stop after stop, and you get pretty much a very smooth transition. Can't really, you get an idea. Okay, it's getting softer, and the sound color is changes a bit, but there are soft transitions, and that's what this organ can do very much, pretty much for the whole range of all registers. I didn't show you because I can't speak when I play all the registers, but you get an idea. So soft and smooth sound transitions are possible. Those who have already been at Christchurch or who followed very precisely what we were talking about the last 2 sessions, they know that these old organs have what we call ventils, Sperrventile. These ventils use the possibility of blocking and releasing the wind for one division. Now I have the Sperrventil for the Hauptwerk. This is the principal 8 foot. Now if I close the Sperrventil, if I close the ventil, after a while the wind will go away. But if I do it very softly, I can have transitions between full and no sound. Very interesting. You have these ventils for manual, Hauptwerk and Oberwerk here, but they only work in the last 20% of the stop movement, and they are very, very hard to handle because, of course, you can imagine you have the whole wind of the organ, 7 bellows behind this ventil. So if you want to move it, you have to be very strong and to balance it. So it's not easy to handle them, but it's possible to use the ventils. The ventil for the manual Hauptwerk is a bit easier than the one for the Oberwerk, which is on-off, kind of on-off, but the Hauptwerk works better. Something we were talking about when discussing possibilities of reducing the wind pressure in these instruments was half-pull stops. I can show you now. They can see me, can they? Yeah, okay, that's good. So I will try to show you here so that you can see what I'm doing. Let's take the, which one? Yeah, maybe we take the viola di gamba on the Rückpositiv. I play C major chord. Now, if I push the stop very softly, the sound goes away, and after a while, it's not only softer, but there are intonation, say issues. Sometimes you even get multiphonics, soft noises, something like that. Very beautiful possibilities. The sound is interesting, but it's very hard to control and you can't really tell what happens. This depends also on the diameter of the pipes. So of course this is different from stop to stop, and this also differs from the length of the whole pipe. So an 8-foot pipe will be, if I will want to get some sound out of an 8-foot pipe here, up here, there won't be some very much of a sound, interesting sound, so everything we like, but the lower I get, the sound gets more and more normal. This is clear because there's more air, because the diameter of the hole where the air gets in is larger, so the wind supply is better. So if you want to have a distorted kind of electronic sound generated by half pull stops over the whole range of the manual, you will have to choose different stops that give this effect of distortion in different regions of the manual. So for the 8-foot stop, this is maybe the upper octave, like this one. Okay, this works, but for the next octave, the 8-foot will be quite good. So if we want to have the same effect here, you will need to have another 4-foot stop. That gets a sore throat here. So you have to play with, or have another 8-foot stop and a bit more open, and so on and so on. You have to play with that. So this means if you want to compose it, this is very complicated. You can't really predict what will happen. You only can say, okay, play with half pull stops and get kind of a degenerated sound, and the organist will have to try what he can do or she can do. You can't program, say, okay, take an 8-foot principle, half pull, and you can't predict the effect on this organ. There will be an effect, but you can't tell, and so the organist will have to try what he can do or she can do. Microtonality, of course, an interesting question. We have microtonality in the Una Maris. The beatings, this is microtonality, of course, but you have the microtonality also if you only pull one of them. So this is the normal 8-foot principle. If you change and say, okay, they're different, of course, and of course you can take this principal Una Maris as a basis for something else, so there will be a difference too. So there's microtonality incorporated, and you know the possibility to bring in the mutations and then play 8-foot or 4-foot stops or octaves at the at the same pitch. So this is a third, for example. So if I want to, this is the third, and if I add the same pitch by an 8-foot, of course I have to play a bit higher, 2 octaves in the third. I also get beatings because, as you know, the sound produced by the normal 8-foot stop will be in the temperament of the organ, Neidhart 1, but the third will be in perfect third on another tone of the same temperament. So they will differ because the pure third and the normal temperated third, they will differ a bit, only in microtonal ways, but of course there's a soft beating, so you can use this for microtonal ideas if you want to. This works very well with the thirds because you have the frequency is higher. The lower you get, of course, the beatings they won't be that impressive. Okay, I'll stop at this point. So we change to the Zoom mode now, and you are invited to sorry, to ask your questions, please. And of course, you also can ask me to show something or play something. Okay, we have the time lag and the delay, of course. Just give the other ones some seconds. André, kannst du mal aus meiner Tasche meinen Laptop holen und mal aufklappen? Wir könnten eventuell gleich noch ein bisschen Wasserflüsse Babylon mit verschiedenen Registrierungen machen, wenn Leute Interesse dran haben. Soll ich anfangen? Ja, genau, einfach aufmachen, der ist an. Also genau, einfach auf den Knopf hier drücken und dann gucken wir, was passiert. Okay, now, okay, there is a question in the chat. It's very small. My display is very small, so I just give. Okay, could you demonstrate the symbol stand and how it is typically used? I believe it is usually used with loud and full registration. That's right. Keen. Usually, if we have a very interesting cymbal stand in this organ. Let me tell the story before I demonstrate the cymbal stand here. We know that the original organ had a cymbal stand, but it was lost during the alterations we had in the 20th century. So we don't know how it was worked out. We know that there's a cymbal stand, but we don't know the pitches, for example, and the frequency and all this stuff. So they had to reconstruct, and now, first of all, just listen how they made it here. This is, of course, kind of a small joke. This is not original, but it's nice. You got it. It's a pentatonic. You also can say an overtone thing. So you will like to add it to a good principle-based full organ sound and make it a bit like, it's like the triangle in the orchestra, for example. You will use it to give a bit more of a brilliance. I can show you. So, for example, if you have like, I will combine it with the Oberwerk, which is quite nice. A bit of a pedal sound going with the rest. Okay. This would be a traditional way of using the Zimbelstern and these organs. What did I do? I played an organo pleno on the Oberwerk, added the Zimbelstern with these overtone structures, and then went to the Hauptwerk, and you got the 16-foot bass mixture, also with the Sesquialta, so a third on the organ. So this was a use of the Zimbelstern here in the organ. Thank you for asking that. I didn't show you, and there was a question about that last week, right? And of course, you know, you have a Zimbelstern also at Christchurch, so you can use it over there in Rochester. Are there other questions in the chat, or other questions you want to ask? We are now on Zoom, so you can ask directly.
Martin, please keep in mind you have the 30 seconds delay on YouTube. So
I don't get it, sorry?
you have the 30 seconds delay on YouTube, so please keep that in mind. You cannot switch directly from Zoom to YouTube one another.
And if you play, we're switching to YouTube.
Ah, okay. So I played and it was Zoom, so it was bad. Ah, okay. Yeah, I should. Yeah. You're so. Oh, yes. Sorry for that. I didn't keep in mind that we are on Zoom now, so the sound quality is bad. We will get back to the streaming to the stream version, and I will play it again so that you get an idea.
Can you read the questions? Otherwise, I can,
This organ doesn't have any expression or crescendo pedals. Correct. That's correct. Yeah, Keen. That's right. As I told you, the expression and crescendo pedals. This is an idea more or less related to the Romantic period. So we don't have it in 18th century organs in Germany. There are some English ones, but not in these ones. So there's no crescendo pedals. You can see it. There's nothing. Yeah. We have this hole for the foot. You need it for your balance, but there are no expression pedals. Does the Zimbelstern really only work in the keys that fit with the pitches of the Zimbelstern? This is a question of your aesthetics, because I did it when I played. I will show you afterwards when we stream again. So it's a C major, it's Zimbelstern, and I used it in C major. But of course you don't have to do that. This is a question. If you want to use it in a different pitch to give more dissonances, more expressivity, it's up to you. You usually don't do it too much if you play traditional music, but of course you are free to do that. There is no problem. You can do that. Sometimes I like to use Zimbelsterns in the introduction of one of my own pieces, Ophelia's Tears, which gives a crazy turning sound, and you know, Ophelia, she's getting mad in Shakespeare's play, and this is a very good way of showing that, using the Zimbelstern. Okay, other questions in the chat? I don't see any at this point. So, okay, are there any live questions at this point in the Zoom session? Seems that you are completely pleased with what you listen to. I could...
No, I have a question.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Nahula.
Yeah, I am not belonging to the companies, but just out of interest. Is it possible to use the Zimbelstern combined with another tonality in the manuals to create polytonality?
Of course, yeah, that's no problem. You can do that, of course. Yeah. You have to take into consideration that the Zimbelstern is a soft means. It's not very loud. It's not like the Glockenspiel in Christchurch, which is quite prominent. This one, the Zimbelstern, of course, it's meant to be kind of a small like spice you add to the usual music you get, but of course it does not have to be in the foreground of your music. So if you want to create polytonality, it's a soft one on the level of the Zimbelstern, and you will have to adapt the rest so that you can hear really both levels. But of course it's possible. Yeah.
Because it would be nice to, I would say, if you use some registers with which are not that loud, and then you take the Zimbelstern
Sure.
and combine with, for example, the viola da gamba, that would be somehow nice in contrast.
Okay, I can show you when we go back to the stream. I could show you some of these examples. Of course, I can do that. Yeah. Other questions like these? Only an idea. Would you be interested in getting a bit a closer view on the different possibilities of using different registrations for the same piece. What I could show you, for example, is play the beginning of a Bach chorale prelude and do it with different registration. What do you think about that? I don't know, 2, 3. Matt Barber, yeah, please.
It might also be useful to play on some of the 2-foot, 1-foot stops without the accompanying 8-foot, 4-foot, just to get a sound of what the stops sound like by themselves.
Very good idea. I just note. Yes. So we want to have the 2-foot and 4-foot alone. Zimbelstern. So this is really a toy everybody's interested in. Zimbelstern, monotonal, and
That will be funny over Zoom.
no, we'll get back to the stream and you get a good sound at that point. Okay, 2-foot and 4-foot alone, good idea. Okay, Zimbelstern. Maybe I'll give you the mixtures also alone, so that you really get an idea about the sound of these registers. That's a good idea. Zimbelstern, different pitches. Okay, this is a question keen. Different pitches and keys on different organs. Sorry for all the Zimbelstern questions. Okay, yes, they are. Yeah, so you can't count on. I have never had a Zimbelstern like this, so only to say. I don't remember the one in Christchurch. Maybe I didn't ever use it. I don't know. This is kind of a toy. So this organists, serious organists, they use it very consciously, say. But of course, you can use them, but they are different in all the organs. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry for that. Still other questions? What about the idea of presenting Bach's chorale prelude with different registrations? Good idea? Some feedback?
Yes, that's a great idea.
Okay, yeah, thanks. So, what we can do, haben wir es hier gerade? Die Registrierung. I just have to check my registration sheet and then we can go ahead. Stellt ihr schon mal auf Zoom? We are going to switch to the Zoom, maybe a half a minute and then we are there. To the stream, to YouTube, sorry, yeah. Ja, du kannst es ja schon mal. Wir können ja als erstes die Registrierung von heute Mittag nehmen, die ist ja noch hier auf diesem Zettel. Ja, die nehmen wir aber noch nicht. Ich fange erstmal mit der Zimbelstern-Soße an. Das ist witzig, dass wir das so entscheidend finden. Das ist wirklich
Martin, versuchst du bitte noch darauf zu achten, entweder zu spielen oder zu sprechen, weil beides gleichzeitig, das klingt glaube ich nicht besonders schön im Stream. Oder auch im Zoom spielt keine Rolle.
Ja, okay, ja, danke. Ist gut. Danke für den Tipp. So, und jetzt haben wir hier die ganzen Registrierungen. Oder. Okay, are we online streaming? Great, okay. Now, first of all, the Zimbelstern questions. Zimbelstern. Usually you use here's the Zimbelstern, first of all. It's an overtone structure, yeah, overtone 8, 9, 10, and so on and so on. And you have the 7th inside. So this is the Zimbelstern here. It relates to C major on this organ, choir tone, so C sharp in fact, C major, and you usually combine it with music that works with the organo pleno registration. Get a bit more of a brilliance, like this. As you could notice, the Zimbelstern, it's a machine, it turns around, so it takes some time to get away. So I stopped the Zimbelstern before releasing the chord, and even then it was a bit, so you have to check that. As Keen asked, and it's really the way, you can't count on a standard. It's always a bit different on different organs, the pitches of the Zimbelstern. This is a very unusual one, having a seventh. This is not really normal, but it's nice, of course. So this is it's kind of a gift of the modern organ builder to this old organ, but it's not original, surely not. But anyway, it's nice. So this is the Zimbelstern. Nahulan's question was if we can combine the Zimbelstern in this organ in C major with another pitch. Of course this works. So maybe we just combine it with the Rohrflöte and I play in, I don't know. Yeah, I can. I think you will be able to stand F sharp tonality. So this is the effect Naulan was asking for in polytonality, in a very harsh way, of course. C against F sharp. You can combine it, no problem. Now, Matt Barber asked about having the 2 and the 4 foot stops alone. Let's do it in a systematic way so that you don't lose the oversight. The principles, which are called prestanta and octava in this organ when they are in the higher pitches, principle 4 foot on all the manuals. Hauptwerk, manual, 4 foot. Remember, Hauptwerk, the diameter of the principle was the largest one. So prestanta 4 foot on the Oberwerk. Prestanta means this is an octave that is in the front of the organ. Prestans, Latin means it's in the forefront, stands in front of all the other ones. So this is a prestanta 4 foot, also a principal Oberwerk, a bit smaller. There is still an octave on the Rückpositiv, also a prestanta, so on the front of the Rückpositiv. Oberwerk. Hauptwerk. Rückpositiv. Hauptwerk. It's getting louder and larger and a bit softer. Fat. So this was the 4 foot principles. 4 foot flutes. 4 foot flute on the Hauptwerk is it's here, I think. Yeah, Spitzflöte. Spitzflöte, 4 foot. And we have a 4 foot flute on the Oberwerk, which is a Gemshorn. And we have a 4 foot flute on the Rückpositiv, which is also a Rohrflöte, like the 8 foot. So, Hauptwerk. Oberwerk, Gemshorn. Principle-like. Rohrflöte, very beautiful instrument here on the Rückpositiv. These are a bit more alike, and the Gemshorn is a bit afar, more like a principle. So these are the 4-foot flutes. As I told you, there is one 4-foot gamba called Vagara on the Rückpositiv. Sounds like this. It's a bit narrow, you can feel it. Many overtones, so it gets a very good stringy sound. These are the 4-foots through the whole organ. Now the 2-foots. We have 2-foot principles called Oktava on all manuals. Oktava 2-foot on the Hauptwerk, Oberwerk and Rückpositiv. Hauptwerk. Sharper, and now Rückpositiv. They are really like relatives, but of course everybody is a bit different. So these were the octaves, mainly meaning these are the principles, 2-foot. We have 2-foot flutes on all manuals, Oberwerk, Waldflöte, Hauptwerk, Weitpfeife, and a 2-foot, a combination of 2-foot and 1.5 foot on the Rückpositiv. Now let's go to the 2-foot flutes on Hauptwerk, which is a Weitpfeife, so a large pipe. 2-foot stop, it's that large, but it has quite a body. And we have the same thing, a Waldflöte, which is a bit softer. We don't have a single 2-foot stop on the Rückpositiv, but we have a combination of 2-foot and a mutation on Rückpositiv, like this. So this is more for color. But here this stop in the few parts of the Bach prelude. I played the ritornell passages on the Hauptwerk, and when I went to the few passages, I went to the Rückpositiv, and there we had 8-foot, 4-foot, 2-foot, and then this Rauschpfeife. I can just show what we did. Foot, 2-foot principle, and then this Rauschpfeife, this combination of the overtone mutation. A small mixture. We have a mixture also on the Rückpositiv, but it's of course it's different in the Rückpositiv sound. So these are the 2-foot stops Professor Barber was asking for. Now what I can do is I will give you some examples of different registrations for the same piece. Maybe I don't play the whole piece every time, but only maybe 1.5 minutes, so that you get an impression about the sound. So the piece I'm going to play is An Wasserflüssen Babylon. This is one of Bach's chorale preludes from the Leipzig time, it has a pedal section, and we have two voices on the manuals that play with a motive, kind of a weeping motive, and then we have the cantus firmus, the melody, which is embellished in the tenor region, so it's a bit covered by the rest of the organ. And the first registration I give here is 16-foot stop in the pedals, so fundamental bases. The accompanying voices are played on the Oberwerk. I will couple them to the Hauptwerk, so it's a bit easier here. I play them on the Hauptwerk, but it's the stops are from the Oberwerk, and this is only the principal 8-foot stop. And the melody in the tenor is also principal, but to give it a bit more of a prominence we need for the cantus firmus, of course, for the melody, I add the quintadena. The quintadena, as you remember, is a stopped flute, and it has a very precise basis and tone, but we also have the overtone fifth, so third overtone, and it gives a very precise melody. You will hear that. So, An Wasserflüssen Babylon, first registration, accompaniment, Oberwerk, principal, pedal 16-foot principal, and melody, principal, and quintadena. And so on. So a very soft combination of different 8-foot stops. Now, second version, just look into my computer, there are different ways of doing it. 16. Nehmen wir erstmal die erste, ne? 12, 13, 16. So, jetzt muss ich mich erstmal orientieren, wie ich das gemeint habe. Also hier ist nichts, hier ist 843, das ist ja, okay, this is what we would call a Mendelssohn registration. Felix Mendelssohn, he liked this prelude very much, and he used to play it in a way you would maybe do it when you think of an orchestra. He said, okay, the bass line doesn't have to be that deep as we had it in the last registration, but he said, okay, we want to hear the melody, so he put it into an 8-foot stop, and that's what I did in this registration. We have the violon bass, which is an 8-foot here, the accompanying voices on the quintadena, but solo. We have the cantus firmus in the Hauptwerk with 8-foot, 4-foot, and 2 to 3rd-foot principals. So you had the quintadena, which was part of the solo voice in the last version, now as an accompanying instrument, and we had a bit larger section of principals on the Hauptwerk as the main, the cantus firmus voice. Another version would be to have the 16-foot as an accompaniment back and the pedals. Nummer 3, just give us a second, 359, for the registrations. 48 hast du, ne? Genau, jetzt muss ich mich erstmal. 38 ist noch drin? Nee, ne?
Die 3, oder?
Die 2.
Ah, ich habe die 3
Hier kam noch ein Vorschlag rein für Mix this alone would be great too, in the full range in each manual.
Okay, we could do that. This is a very interesting question because of the repetitions, right? We can do that afterwards. Maybe we just finish our different registration on the same Bach piece and then go over to the mixtures. Thank you. Good. The YouTube stream is on. Good. Okay. So I got the chat. I can't see the chat from the organ, so I have to go there. Thank you if you remind me from downstairs of techniques. That's great. Okay, haben wir jetzt die richtige, die zweite? Dann wir erstmal gucken, was wir hier machen. Oktavenbass, Prinzipal, das ist eine relativ kräftige. 2 8-Füße, alle 8 Füße hier. Okay, the next version is we have a very strong pedal, 2 16-foot and an 8-foot stop. Then we have, for the accompaniment, we have the principal on the manual and the Hauptwerk, which is quite prominent. And to have the cantus firmus still heard, we need 4 8-foot stops in the Rückpositiv. So we use all the 4 8-foot stops in the Rückpositiv. But it's a wonderful combination because you have the principal and the flute giving body, and the gamba and the quintadena for the line so that you can follow, that it speaks. Listen. Of course, it's not as soft, but of course it has a very warm and bodyful sound. Okay, we have 2 other versions and then we go to the mixtures. Jetzt nehmen wir Nummer 3, ne? Was ist das hier? 3, 19, 25. Was wird das denn? Ach, du hast die Koppel drin. Okay, so I was just wondering. Yeah, okay. This is great. Now in this version we have a soft 16-foot basses, Sub-Bass 16 Fuß, which is a stopped but very, very large register. It's not really loud, but it's very bodyful, so it fills the church quite well. We have the Rohrflöte as the accompaniment, so more or less softer, and we have the Hohlflöte and the Waldflöte, so which is the 2-foot stop, 8 and 2-foot stop, gap registration without 4-foot, on the Oberwerk for the cantus firmus. This is like this. can't tell you which stop choice I love most, but I love this one very much. There was some special thing about the pedals. You heard that I used the Subbass, but there was also an 8-foot stop. I coupled the Spitzflöte from the Hauptwerk into the pedals so that we had also the 8-foot basses. This would be the Subbass alone. This is with the coupler. And one last version for our Choral Prelude 3:22:37. Okay, das bist du. 42, 52, 59, nicht 60. Die 60.
Beziehungsweise 5. Ach nee.
Nee, das ist eine andere. Das ist die gleiche, aber die gibt es hier mit, warte mal, mit der 5. Ja, die ist vielleicht besser mit.
Statt der 3.
Ja, aber da muss die 33 noch rein. Tu mal die 33 rein, das ist gut. Okay, jetzt weiß ich nur nicht, wo der Cantus Firmus ist. Muss ich mich mal gerade orientieren. Hier ist Hohlflöte, 8 Fuß.
Spitzflöte.
Nee, das kann nicht sein. Aber hier ist die Koppel wieder drin. Nee, wir nehmen doch die andere. Mal die 33 raus. Hier ist die 33 hier. Genau, Spitzflöte, das ist die Koppel. Viola di Gamba. Okay. Okay, this version is a very soft one. Still another one. I think we can do it in two ways. Accompaniment, Viola di Gamba, Rückpositiv, Cantus Firmus, Hohlflöte. And we have the same pedal registration, Subbass 16 foot with coupled Spitzflöte for the Hauptwerk. Do it other way around, Hohlflöte for the accompaniment and the Viola di Gamba for the Cantus Firmus, so you will have a bit more of a sharp Cantus Firmus. There are other versions with reeds, but enough to show you how wonderfully you can blend the 8-foot stops, even in the old music. And of course, for contemporary music, there are still other possibilities because of the enlarged tone language we use. Now, Professor Barber asked for mixtures alone, and as you know, we have two kinds of mixtures: those who have the same combination of pitches for the whole range of the stop, and those who change, who repeat and go back. First of all, those mixtures of different colors and pitches that go straight forward and don't change. This is the first one, is the Sesquialter on the Hauptwerk, which is a combination of a fifth, 2 to third, so to say third overtone, and the fifth, which is the fifth overtone, third and fifth overtone, like this. The Rauschpfeife on the Rückpositiv, and this is a combination of fifth and octaves. You get that the fifth is beneath, so you have the overtone of the 2 foot on top. These are the, and we have the cornet, right? The cornet. There's something special with the cornet. Cornet mixtures don't start in the very deep organ, but usually they start in the first octave, because in the old music they were meant to be the one possible combination for cantus firmus, which is always on the in the soprano region. So this cornet starts at C1, combination of 4 foot and thirds and fifths. Quite powerful, so you can also add it to an organoplano like 16, 8, 4, quinta and mixture and 2 foot registration with principals. You get the idea that there's this. Now I can speak, thank you. You get the idea. If I combine this cornet to organoplano registration, it gives this bodyful sound of the third. So this is the cornet. Then we have the mixtures. We have 3 mixtures on the organ. The one on the Hauptwerk, I told you it's based on the 16 foot level. And here the repetition. We have a mixture, called mixture, in the Rückpositiv. 8 foot based. Sometimes, like in this one, the composition changes from octave to octave. And we have the Scharf, which is on the Oberwerk. This is what Alt-Nicole called the cymbal sound of the organ. Okay, further questions?
Ja, muss jetzt einen kleinen Moment warten.
Ja, klar. Ich meine, manche schreiben das ja auch dann, ne?
Ja. Ich kann dir das auch gerne vorlesen, wenn du möchtest.
Ja, wenn was Neues gekommen ist, auf jeden Fall, gerne.
Genau.
Nahulan, a question?
Sorry, mein Fehler, jetzt geht's.
Okay, just right.
Okay, yeah, now it's okay. Yeah, I just wanted to show you that we cannot hear you, but now it's okay.
Okay. My question was if there is any question left. Or something you want me to demonstrate? Try something.
Yes. Something about, could you show us more, say maybe just 2 or 3 more combinations according to, how to say it in English? Schwebung with the Tremulent and the viola da gamba and so on.
There are 2 ways of making the music vibrate. First possibility is really using interferences. This is what we do when we combine principal and principal under maris. We have the principal, which is in the usual pitch, and the under maris, which is maybe 4 hertz or something away, so that you get a steady beating, a steady interference. This is built in the organ, and this works with different pitches. You have the same phenomenon when you combine mutations with 4-foot stops at the same real pitch. That's what I showed with the terz, the third. On the other hand, we have what we call Tremulent, Tremulanten, and this is what Hildebrand has built in this organ, 2 tremulants. This is very usual for these old instruments. You have 2 tremulants, and they work completely differently. A tremulant interrupts the flow of the air for a short moment, so you get a good wind supply, and for a small part of the tone you don't get a wind supply, so get whoa 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 whoa. So this effect. We have 2 tremulants that work like this, a slow one and a faster one. I can show that afterwards when we go back to a streaming. I think this would be good to have it streamed. So I will write it, and we will have a streamed tremulant. Other things that we should do when going back to a last stream. Okay, this seems to be the last questions. So what I would now, oh no, there's something else. I must, okay, thank you, Keen Southside. I must also leave for a meeting. Okay, everybody must leave for a meeting. Maybe we should, I don't have any idea how late it is, so maybe we should stop our meeting for today. I write emails because we are going to meet again in 2 weeks for the getting pairs of composers and organists. Composers, those are left. Now, just tonight, just start composing. I gucke auf Birks Kachel. Yeah, Grüße nach Netwen. Oder Siegen, wherever. So just start composing this night, because you have an impression of the organ, you have an impression of the sound, you have hopefully you have some inspiration about this wonderful space here and the instrument. So maybe you can just start working now. Zach Berenbauer is still there, yeah, and Bo, yeah, okay, yeah. I would encourage you, start, and even if you don't have, at this point, you don't have your organist, we will find him or her, there's no question, we can do that. And so just start working, and we'll meet again in 2 weeks. I write an email about the next meeting, of course, and then we will hopefully find organ players and composers and relating, so that you can work together with them. And of course you can send sketches and ideas, recordings, whatever you need in case you think it would be worthwhile to speak with me and to have some advice or some feedback, of course, no problem. So before shutting off our stream, I would like to go back to the stream and show you the different ways of using the tremulant and the undermaris, so that you get an idea how the difference will be. Okay, so I say goodbye. No, I say goodbye in the stream, but I say goodbye to all those. Or do you have any questions left, Zach Berman and Bo Huang? No. Okay.
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment, yeah. Of course, if questions arise, just ask me. Okay, now we go back to the stream and we will have some explanations about the tremulants. ihr sagt Bescheid, wenn wir soweit sind, ne?
Wenn ich mich nicht täusche, kannst du eigentlich sofort durchstarten, weil der Stream ist ja sowieso delayed gegenüber Zoom, also von daher...
Also, okay, sollte funktionieren. Okay, first of all, principal and principal unamaris, so this is a built-in interference in the organ. Principal. Unamaris, a bit out of tune, so you get beatings. And you have this. On all pitches, no problem. So this is a built-in vibrato kind of. Then we have the tremulents. As I told you, tremulant means there's an interruption of the airflow in the wind channel, and this means we have like differences in the air supply. The effect is different. Whoa, 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 you can hear it. But there's really a difference in the air pressure. This is an interference, so it's really the tone, one tone, but it differs. The effect is more audible, is still more audible if you add higher pitches, like 2 foot. Or 1.5 foot, quinta. Also very effective, the soft reed from the Oberberg, Vox Humana. You can also combine this with an overtone, like 1 2/3 or something. There is another tremulant that works on the Hauptwerk and the Rückpositiv. It's different. I just show you with the principles. First of all, without, and then with tremulant. It's a bit slower, but it's also very, very very effective. I added the trumpet. So this is the tremulant for the Hauptwerk. It's a bit more prominent. It's not as soft as the one on the Oberwerk. So these are the two tremulants. Now, Hulan, could you nod if that's okay? Could you say yes? That was my question.
30 Sekunden Delay.
I wait some seconds because we have the delay. Okay. Okay. Great. Okay. So I say goodbye.
Yes, that was my question.
Okay, great. Okay, now Hulan and everybody else, thank you for attending, and hopefully you will get good inspiration for new compositions for this wonderful organ. And I'm looking forward to seeing your first sketches and seeing you again in 2 weeks in our next seminar session, where we will hopefully find organists for all the composers here who want to write new pieces. Goodbye, have a good time, and see you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Bye.
Das war's. Wie viel Uhr haben wir? Ich habe überhaupt keine Vorstellung. Oh! Okay, über 2 Stunden, ja, klar, das ist nicht so schlimm. Also, das ist, die Amerikaner sind da, also, ja, völlig entspannt. Die verschwinden, wenn es nicht mehr geht. Ne? Okay.
Cool. Hey,
Oh,
hast du
ja.
alles geschafft?
Danke dir. Danke dir. Du warst großartig, wirklich.